The Orlando Magic have officially punched their ticket to the postseason. How high can the Magic climb? And the work ahead today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is March 30th, 2020. Today's March 30th and will be March 31st, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman-Ike. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the Orlando Magic officially punched their postseason ticket. Why their work is far from over. Plus, is the 6th seed actually in play for the Magic? We'll break down the schedules and what's coming up for both the Magic, the Hawks, and the Milwaukee Bucks coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. You can make Locked On Magic even bigger part of your day with the Locked On Magic Daily Newsletter, the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic Newsletter. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. The Orlando Magic have accomplished the smallest goal on their list of things that they have to do. The Magic obviously wanted to be in the playoffs and still want to be in the playoffs, but the first thing you got to do is you got to get through the regular season. You got to do all the things you got to do to get there. And so I'm a believer that you mark the small victories. You mark the little things. You mark the steps on the progress, on the road to where you want to be and on the road to your goals. And so Saturday's 121-91 win over the Sacramento Kings officially clinched a Game 83. It officially clinched the Magic at least a spot in the play-in tournament. The Magic will play after April 13th. Whether that's on April 15th or 16th, we'll find out. Whether that is April 21st, I think. I don't know what my days are after that. But the Magic have punched their ticket to the postseason. And that is something to think about. That is something to pause and note and say, the Magic accomplished this goal. Now, that's not to say this is the end goal, that this is it. The Magic wanted to win the Southeast Division. That goal is still in front of them. The Magic wanted to earn home court, wanted to make the playoffs. That goal is still something they have to work for. The Magic wanted to be the 4 seed, win at least the 4 seed and win home court advantage. That goal is essentially slipped away from them. The elimination number for the Magic to be the 4 seed is 1. One more Pacers win, one more Magic loss, and the Magic will not have an opportunity to be the 4 seed. So that is still in play, that's still technically in play, but a very, very likely long shot. This season, of course, will go down as a disappointment. The Magic will not have accomplished that key goal, will not have made the progress they wanted to. While there is still that other goal in front of them, perhaps, to get out of the first round. It's not impossible. They have to get in first. The Magic have taken steps. But what this season has really shown us, both from the big picture perspective and the small perspective of these next 7 games, the Magic's job is not done. We should note the Magic have made the postseason, but we are not celebrating it. We are not sitting here saying the work is done, mission accomplished. We might have done that last year. Last year, getting the 5 seed, getting to Game 7, that felt like gravy. And while there was legitimate disappointment in losing that Game 7 to the Cavs, or not being the 2 seed or the 3 seed with how last season developed and how that last week developed, it still felt like gravy. It still felt like, in the big scheme of things, the Magic had arrived ahead of schedule. Obviously, this season is a step back. The Magic should expect to be in the postseason from now until Paolo and Franz are no longer on the team. That's the reality of it. Orlando has put themselves in that class of team. But here we are, 2 weeks left to go in the season, and the Magic have punched their ticket. They will play. They will play a game 83. Like I said, the work is not done yet, and everybody on the Magic can acknowledge that. Through all the strife, through all the difficulty, through all the injuries, through everything that this team has had to go through, they still came out with this part of their season accomplished. But they're not satisfied. You're not satisfied. I'm not satisfied. There is still work to do. There's still a division crown, a trophy. I don't care that the division means virtually nothing. You get a trophy for it. It's not a participation trophy. It is something you win. You play your division opponent, your division teammates, your division mates more than any team in the league. It means something. It's not nothing. It is a trophy. It is a banner. It may not mean as much as it did 20, 30 years ago, but it still means something. And certainly it means you get a home game, 2 home games to make the playoffs. That is valuable. That is something to play for. And so there is still a lot of meaning left in these last 7 games. There is still something to fight for and still something the Magic can strive for. A lot of you are probably sitting there saying, like, look, this is all small potatoes. And you're right, it is. It is not what the Magic originally intended to go after. The Magic are going to have to fight to have a winning record. To get to 41 wins, to get to 42 wins, the Magic have to go 6-1. To get to 41 wins, the Magic have to go 5-2. I've said last week, I think the 7 seed is a race to 40. The Magic have to go 4-3 to get to 40. 40 is very possible. Won't be easy, but it's very possible. And I do think 40 or 41 is going to get you the 7 seed. Again, Atlanta has to go, I think, to get to 40, Atlanta has to go 4-4. Yes, 4-4. To get to 41, they have to go 5-3. And again, we'll talk about them here in a minute. There is still something, so even small things to go for. And the goal for the Magic, as it has been since the trade deadline, and really this season got cemented as a play-in season, it has been about making the most of the time you have left. Maximizing this group as much as you can to learn as much as you can to help you set up your summer, because obviously the Magic are not where they want to be. The job is not done yet. And truthfully, even if it isn't what the Magic originally hoped to chase, even if it is not originally what the Magic hoped to accomplish, the Magic should still be going all out to maximize this time. Because the playoffs are obviously still super valuable to a young team. Home court advantage was always the goal. It remains the goal, even on this smaller scale. And the Magic just want the pride to let everyone know, even in a down year, they run this division. They run the Southeast. They're the better team. And they're going to run this thing for a very, very long time. So what is the road to the postseason? And is the 6th seed in play? We're going to break down the schedule and what the Magic have to do to hit 41 wins coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. There's nothing like watching basketball live. The energy of the crowd, the sound of sneakers on the hardwood, and maybe even a celebrity sighting courtside. There's been a few celebrities at Magic games recently. If you want to catch a game in person, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. Game Time's new feature, Game Time Picks, filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. You can check the Game Time app and find amazing deals on the huge matchups coming up. Orlando has just 3 home games remaining in the regular season, including Monday night against the LA Clippers, and obviously the big game April 8th against the Atlanta Hawks. With their super deals, Game Time even highlights the best bang for your buck. And with seat views before you buy, there are no surprise fees and a lowest price guarantee. You can book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. After the Orlando Magic defeated the Atlanta Hawks hopefully they'll defeat them next Tuesday, but after the Orlando Magic defeated the Sacramento Kings on Saturday, the Orlando Magic did briefly sit in the 7 seed, percentage points ahead of the Atlanta Hawks, but essentially tied in the standings. The Atlanta Hawks went ahead, took care of business with a big blowout victory over the Milwaukee Bucks, ran them out of the gym in the third quarter, led by 30 plus, I believe, in that game, led by 25 plus at least. So the Atlanta Hawks now back a half game ahead of the Orlando Magic in the standings. Again, like, the standings are going to be the standings. The Hawks are 36 and 38. The Magic are 36 and 39. The Hawks currently have a game in hand. They will get a second game in hand when the Magic play the Clippers on Monday. So again, the Magic are 2 games ahead, will have played 2 more games than the Hawks after Monday's game. What this means is the Magic are behind. The Magic are the ones with ground to make up. Before we get into anybody else's schedule, before we talk about what the other teams in the league have to do, the Magic have to take care of their business. At the end of the day, this is about getting as many wins as you can and racing as far ahead of the other teams as you possibly can. Orlando is at a disadvantage because they have played more games than the Hawks. And again, they will have played 2 more games than the Hawks. The Hawks' next game is Tuesday night against Portland in Atlanta. Portland is a weird team right now. They're playing, they are playing a little bit better, but they're 4-6 in their last 10. They've lost their last 4. They're heading east now. Could be a tricky game. Portland's a very tricky team. They could give them problems, but again, Portland's steam has kind of run out a little bit. Essentially, what this all means is if the Magic are going to catch the Hawks, if it's going to be about that, the 2 games between these 2 teams, April 8th in Orlando, April 13th of regular season finale in Atlanta, those games are huge. I've been saying this throughout the course of the whole time. The Magic just have to stay within a game of Atlanta because they'll have an opportunity to pick 2 games up and beat them both times. And again, like, the way everything's set up now, if the Magic kind of cruise along and play the games that they're playing and beat Atlanta twice, they are probably going to win the 7 seed. Again, a couple other things of note. Orlando does own the tiebreaker with the Hawks right now in division record. If they do split the season series and have the same number of wins, the Magic, as long as they beat Washington and split those 2 games against Atlanta, the Magic own the division tiebreaker. They would own the tiebreaker. So the Magic are in good position if they can tie the Hawks. But again, those 2 games are humongously important. April 8th, Kia Center, be there, make it a playoff atmosphere. It's as big a game as any other game. Every game's huge, but that game is doubly big, 6-point game. But for the Magic to catch up to the Hawks, they're going to need to win a game that they're not expected to. The reason why the loss to Dallas was a rough one was because it was a 50-50 game. Dallas and Orlando have the same record. We know Dallas is struggling a little bit. It was an important game for the Magic to win because now when you look at the schedules, the Magic are still playing catch-up. Atlanta will not make up those 2 games until Orlando has their little 4-day break. Orlando's schedule, they play tonight against the Clippers, Tuesday against the Spurs, Thursday against Washington, and then they don't play again until Tuesday against the Hawks, until that April 8th game against the Hawks. The Hawks, in the meantime, They play Portland on Tuesday at home. They're at home against the Blazers on Tuesday. They play Thursday against the Dallas Mavericks, or they play Wednesday against the Dallas Mavericks in Dallas. So that's a big one. Then they make up their 2 games in hand. Saturday, they host the New York Knicks. It is beginning to look like Jalen Brunson might be back for that game. And then April 6th, they host the Utah Jazz. Then they start a 3-game road trip at Orlando, at Brooklyn, at Philadelphia. And again, Orlando and Atlanta will progress by Sunday night, by next Sunday. Orlando and Atlanta will both have 4 games left. They will progress at the same rate, essentially. They play Tuesday, Thursday. Orlando plays Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Friday, Sunday to close the season. So again, those 2 games get made up this weekend. We will be watching the Saturday game against the Knicks. It's a 3 p.m. tip-off as well. The Sunday game against the Jazz. Those 2 games are big because essentially that determines what the Magic have to do in the last week. But you might notice some of the names that I just mentioned. The Hawks play only 2 more teams besides the Magic, so 4 teams total, but 2 outside the Magic, who are currently in play-in position, and currently in postseason position. And that's Wednesday at Dallas and Saturday against the Knicks. The Magic play 3 more postseason teams outside of Atlanta. So that's 5 total to 4 total. And those 3 are the Clippers, maybe the hottest team in the league. I know they just took a big loss to the Cavs. They'll have Kawhi Leonard back on Monday. Kawhi Leonard's expected to play on Monday. They'll play the Clippers on Monday. They play the Celtics next Wednesday. And then the Pacers in the penultimate game of the year before they travel to Atlanta to take on the Hawks. This is why the Magic have to make up ground. If there is a path to the playoffs, the path to the postseason, the path to the 7 seed is going to require that the Magic beat one of the Clippers, Celtics, or Pacers. Let's just look at the Hawks schedule. Let's assume the Hawks lose to the Mavericks and lose to the Knicks. Those are 2 losses. And let's split that season series. Let's split those 2 games with Let's say they lose to the Magic at the Kia Center. That's 3 more losses at least. 3 more losses. 3 more losses for the Hawks would put them at 41-41. The way the Hawks schedule is set up then, unless the Magic can sweep those two games, the Hawks I would say are on very good track to be 41-41. This is why it's imperative that this is why the Magic really don't have a margin for error anymore. Because Orlando, they have to beat San Antonio and Washington. Cannot lose those games. You're going to assume Atlanta is going to beat the Jazz, the Nets, the Sixers. That's 3 wins right there. The Blazers, you give them that's 4. They're already at 40. All they have to do is beat one of the 4 teams that are in postseason play to get to 41 and really be almost out of reach for Orlando. Again, Orlando to get to 41 wins has to go 5-2. For Atlanta to get to 41 wins, they got to go 5-3. Neither is impossible. I want to make this clear. The Magic are playing well enough. I think they can win tonight against the Clippers. I think, who knows? Boston currently has an 8-game lead over the Knicks. They've already clinched the Atlantic Division. They're 4.5 back of the Cavs. They're not catching the Cavs for the 1 seed. The Celtics might ease off the throttle. We may not see a fully operational Celtics team. That could be a win for Orlando in their last home game, unless Boston feels like they need to make a statement that, hey, don't think you can beat us if we face each other in the playoffs. For the Magic, they've got to steal one of those 3 games. Just bottom line, steal the Clippers, Celtics, or Pacers games. They cannot afford to lose to the Spurs on Tuesday or to the Wizards on Thursday. And they got to hope the Hawks trip up somewhere, honestly. The Hawks, they lost to Brooklyn a little while ago. Portland, like I said, could be a tough game. They'll play Philadelphia. I believe that's their last home game. But again, Philadelphia is kind of bad. The Magic aren't playing nearly as many tanking teams as the Hawks are to close the season. Now, you might remember the Magic tripped up plenty. The Magic tripped up at the end of last season too. They lost to the Hawks first Friday of April, like before that last week of the season. They lost to the Hornets. It was a huge loss. That loss was kind of shocking, came out of nowhere. They lost to the Rockets in their last home game. There is still a lot that can happen. Nothing is guaranteed. You have to play the games. And look, the Hawks snapped a two-game losing streak. They've lost they're 4-4 in their last 8 games. Who knows what could happen? Maybe this is the start of a win streak for the Hawks. Maybe this is maybe the Bucks are just that much worse. We're gonna get to them in a minute. The Magic, though, are the ones that have to play catch up, and I think that is the most important point to make as we enter these final games. The Magic have ground to make up. They are the ones having to do more, and that's why Monday's game is so important. Now, you probably heard me mention this, that the Bucks got absolutely worked by the Hawks. The Bucks are currently on a 5-game losing streak. Or a 4-game losing streak, excuse me. They are 40-34. They are only 4 games ahead of Atlanta with 8 to go. They are 4.5 ahead of Orlando. Again, with 8 to go, Orlando has 7 to go. It's going to be very, very hard for the Magic to catch the Bucks. The elimination number for the 6th seed is currently 3, so that's any combination of 3 Magic losses or 3 Bucks wins, and the Magic cannot make the 6th seed, cannot be in the playoffs that way. Milwaukee's currently 40-34. Again, I would predict that the 7 seed is going to be 41. It's going to be 40 or 41 wins at this point, and it's trending closer to 41 unless the Magic beat the Hawks twice. And again, that gets you to 4. Unless the Magic steal a game somewhere, if the Magic win these 2 games against San Antonio and Washington, beat Atlanta twice, that gets them to 40. That probably wins them the division. Like, honestly, like that, even if the Hawks only win the games that they're expected to win and then lose twice to Orlando, now I got to do math. I was told there would be no math. It's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that would be 4 wins. That's 40. Orlando wins that tiebreaker. Case solved. The Magic are going to need the Hawks to drop a game, or the Magic are going to need to steal some games. But to get to Milwaukee at 40-34, they're going to have to go essentially unbeaten. Like, they're going to have to go 7-0. Because the Bucks still have the Pelicans twice. They're not trying to win. The Bucks' schedule, everyone said it was really, really tough in March. It eases up a ton in April. So unless the Bucks are going on a long losing streak here, they play Phoenix on Tuesday. I got the Suns game on behind me. They're down by 37 with 2.5 minutes to go as I'm recording this at Houston. I don't know about that. They go to Philadelphia, to Miami, to New Orleans. They still got Minnesota, and they still got a home and home with Detroit at the end of the season. Milwaukee's going to win some games. Even if you give them the 2 wins over New Orleans, that still means the Magic have to be perfect. So while Milwaukee is getting a little 7 seed curious, and maybe Atlanta is thinking about sneaking up there, Atlanta, again, I think 41 is kind of the top number. Even then, it feels really, really hard to believe that Milwaukee's not going to get at least 42, maybe 43 wins. And again, the most wins the Magic can get right now is 43. So the 6th seed is probably a pipe dream. It's not impossible. It's mathematically possible, but it's probably a pipe dream. Right now, the goal and the focus for the Orlando Magic is 1 game at a time. Steal this game against the Clippers on Monday. Take care of your business in the next 2. See what happens when you're home. Beat the Hawks twice, and the 7th seed is very much yours. The good news for Orlando is it seems like they are getting closer to getting a key player back. We talked to Cole Anthony when he might return, coming up here in just a moment. So the Orlando Magic have been holding the ship steady, and they've really kind of found their groove again. It's been a really, look, the Magic over the last 11 games are 7-4. They are playing some really good basketball right now. I am confident that they can compete with the LA Clippers. Again, they might still be susceptible to a bad shooting night like they had against Dallas. but they are still very, very capable. They look more like the team from November and December than they do the team from January and February. And so March, I think they need a win on Monday to get a winning March. But the Magic, I think, have steadied the ship, and I think they're due to have a strong close to the season. Do I think the Magic can go 5-2 to get to 500? I think that will be tough, but I think it's very doable. I think certainly they will go a minimum 4-3. I think they will steal one of these games from one of these big teams. And I do think they will at least split with Atlanta. I think they will get one of the games against Atlanta and put that pressure on, and then we'll see what happens. Again, so much is still to happen. So much is still to go down. Orlando's got to take care of their business. They got to think, let's get our 5 wins. Let's get to 41 wins. Let's win as many games as we can and see where the cards fall. At the end of the day, if Orlando puts themselves in that 40-win range, that means they beat Atlanta at least once. That gives them a chance to win the division still. So Orlando, to me, still very much controls their own destiny. Like, they are still the masters of their own destiny. They win the games they're supposed to, steal a game from someone they're not, beat Atlanta. They're going to be the 7th seed. They'll host that play-in game instead of staying in Atlanta for a few extra days. The promise, though, is that the Magic might soon be a little bit healthier, and a little bit is certainly a big part of it. Cole Anthony has missed the last 4 or 5 games now. He tried to come back in the win over the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's now missed 6 games, and 8 of the last 9 with what the team has described as a left big toe strain. We talked to Cole before the game on Saturday, and we've seen him on the floor before Thursday's game, before shoot-around on Thursday. He was taking shots. He was starting to get back on the floor. He's doing some dribbling exercises. He's not quite doing movement shooting yet. But he's taken some major steps to get back on the floor and get back with the team. However, Cole Anthony made it very, very clear that the reason why this injury is taking so long is because he was playing through something that he probably shouldn't have been playing through. He said he tried to give it he said he felt good enough to play in Cleveland, where he played only 6 minutes in the first half. Tried to give it a go, but very, very quickly realized he's not right, that he wasn't healthy enough to play, and that he needed to shut himself down. And kudos to him for recognizing that. We all know he wants to play. We all know he wants to be out there for his team, and he wants to be out there to provide some support for this team. He knew enough to shut down and say, I got to protect myself for the long term, even if it's beyond this season. And he's feeling the pressure of coming back before the playoffs, but he understands that there's a long game to this too. It does not sound like the Magic are going to shut him down anytime soon unless there's a major setback or anything like that. But it was just kind of an injury that Anthony said the team needed to rest. As well as the Magic have played, Cole Anthony would undoubtedly help the team. Corey Joseph has been a great starter, has been a great fill-in. Honestly, I would still start him. I would still start him even when Cole Anthony's back, because I think Cole Anthony is just so much more valuable to this team off the bench. Just giving that extra scoring support off the bench and being the spark plug. And again, the Magic are closing with Anthony Black or Cole Anthony in most games anyway. This season has obviously not gone to plan for Cole. He started 22 games, most starts since 2022, before he became a full-time bench player, only averaging 9.6 points per game. That is a career low. He's shooting 34.9% from 3, which for the Magic is pretty good. It's a second best 3-point shooting season of his career. And he's at 42.3% field goal shooting. He's never been the most efficient shooter either. But since Cole Anthony really entered the starting lineup, since he became kind of the full-time starter in early February, Anthony has been a lot better. In those 14 games before his injury took him out of the lineup, Anthony was averaging 11.9 points per game. He was still only shooting only 43.2% from the floor, but 44% from 3. Knowing the Magic's shooting trouble, knowing the Magic's problems with creation and guys who can get downhill and want to score, Cole Anthony is still pretty important. And while the Magic's offense is certainly recovered, they're averaging, I think, 113 points per 100 possessions over their last 11 games, of which Cole Anthony played about half of them. And the offense has looked better of late since he was out. And, whether that's coincidence or not, I still think Cole Anthony can contribute and help. Getting Cole Anthony back in the rotation, having another offensive weapon and another offensive threat is huge. It's a huge deal to add another quality shooter, another decent creator. The Magic have to work with what they got. And Anthony gives this team something that no one else has. Now, like I said, he's been out for a while. I don't expect him to go back in the starting lineup. Things are working. The rotations are largely working. I would expect that they would put Cole Anthony back into that bench role, play him alongside Anthony Black, where I think they work really well off of each other. Maybe they decrease Gary Harris's minutes. Maybe they keep Gary Harris in the rotation. Certainly they're trying to stretch Paolo and Franz's minutes, but if you can ease their creation burden a little bit, I think that's ultimately a good thing. Cole Anthony and Goga Bitadze have great chemistry. Cole Anthony loves finding Goga Bitadze on rolls. I think that Cole Anthony would undoubtedly help this team in a significant way. But while Cole's return does seem like it is coming close, we're not there yet. We're very, very clearly not there yet. On the Orlando Magic's injury report, heading into Monday's game against the LA Clippers, Cole Anthony is still listed as, if I can find it here, hold on, sorry about that, is now listed as questionable. That is an upgrade from doubtful, which he has been for the last few games. I don't think Cole Anthony is playing Monday, but it does feel like Cole Anthony will be back maybe later this week. Certainly it feels like he will be back for that Atlanta game next Tuesday, because the Magic have a 4 days between the game on Thursday against the Wizards and the game on Tuesday against the Atlanta Hawks. Magic are going to have a chance to really kind of reset themselves and be ready for such a monumentally large game. But the Magic will take all the help that they can get, and obviously everything has to start now with Monday's game against the Clippers. If the Magic can find a way to steal that game against a really good Clippers team, that puts them in a really good spot for their playoff hunt. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. Find me on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all film podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. You can also find us on YouTube to search for Locked On Magic, as well as on Twitter now and Instagram at Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. On Monday morning, I have an article scheduled to go up on Jonathan Isaac and his response to being out of the rotation for a little bit. I break down there Jonathan Isaac's numbers, why his defense is starting to round back into form, but why the Magic are moving a little bit in a different direction. You can find that again on my Patreon page at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As if all that's not enough, your favorite podcast now has a newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Magic Daily Newsletter, the one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic newsletter. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We'll be back tomorrow to recap the Magic's game against the LA Clippers. Until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.